ladies and gentlemen. It's such an honor for me to be here. I mean, such a privilege. I mean, I have to keep on pinching myself, literally, to make sure that I'm really here doing my very first TEDx talk. But before I start, I'll just like to give a little bit of background again to who I really am, so you know who I am and where I come from. So my name is Joan Awum Akob, and I come from Cameroon. It's a country in Central Africa, and I've been in South Africa for the past 10 years. So I know a thing or two about being an immigrant in a foreign country. I came here with my family, and I'm very fortunate to come from an academic family, as the reason why I came here was due to my parents being invited to come and work here due to their exceptional skills. And so it's really interesting because my sisters as well know what it's like to be immigrants in different countries, as my older sister just returned from a conference in Japan, and my younger sister was in the United States of America for a Global Young Leaders Conference. So my parents and my sisters seem to have elaborate CVs, so I myself, I feel very like I'm feeling big shoes coming in tonight, but I believe what I have to share is something that we all need to know. The key to social cohesion lies in perception. The key to social cohesion lies in perception. And I'm going to start off my talk with a bit of a story because I've been told I'm a storyteller, and I hope you enjoy my stories of different experiences I've had in South Africa. And so I'm going to take you way back to 2007. So imagine we're in 2007, we just came to South Africa. This was in August, and it was my very first day in high school. It was grade 8, and I came in the middle of the year, so everyone already had their friends, you know, everything was going good. So I was feeling very nervous. I was shaky. Are they going to like me? Am I going to make friends? I can't even speak their language. So while all these thoughts were going through my mind, in came this white girl with ginger hair, smiling at me, and she ushered me to my classroom. And when I walked in, everyone was staring at me like you're staring at me now, and I was looking back at them, and all I could see was 5 black faces and 20 white faces staring at me. And the first thing that came to mind was, I've never been in the same room with this many white people in my life. So it was exciting for me, and I was just really thrilled. I wanted to get the full South African experience. So I told myself I need to know the different race groups, I need to know the different cultures, and that was my mindset at the time. So during break time, we went to the school field, and everyone was, you know, sitting in their different race groups. And I thought to myself, I thought apartheid was over like 10 years ago. So how come people are still sitting in their preferred racial group? The white people sat together, the Africans sat together, Indians sat together, and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Nevertheless, I was still determined to have the full South African experience. And so during first break, I sat with the white folk, and during second break, I sat with the black folk. And as we were sitting having a discussion, in came this black girl. You know, she was really excited. She heard that there was a new foreign kid in school. And she came to me, and the first thing she asked me was, are you a refugee? I was like, okay, am I a refugee? And being asked this question by my own kind left me feeling very confused. I was like, how can she ask me such a question? But then I concluded that it wasn't because she was ignorant. It's just because she had the perception that all black foreigners were refugees. And so this was the first of many perceptions to follow me as an immigrant living in South Africa. I believe that our perceptions and misconceptions that we have about each other is what actually hinders social cohesion. Now, a perception is basically our opinion or how we think, and this is influenced by your cultural background. Your perception can be influenced by your religion, can be influenced by your race, it can be influenced by your family values. So many different things form a perception. Meanwhile, a misconception is an incorrect way of thinking about something. So you have an opinion, but it's not really a true opinion. So that's a misconception. So bearing these two things in mind, I'm sure we'll agree that someone from Nigeria will think differently to someone in South Africa. A rich person will think differently to a poor person. A black person will think differently to an Indian person. And a Christian will think differently to a Muslim. So these are all perceptions. And I'm sure before I came up here tonight, or maybe as I'm standing here, you're already forming 1 or 2 perceptions about me. Hopefully, good perceptions. But, did you know that I'm not really black? Don't be fooled by the afro. I'm not really black. I've been told so many times that I'm not really black because I can't speak isiZulu. But since when was race defined by language? Since when was race defined by language? And so, since I've been told this so many times, I also concluded that, this was just a perception. And when I started to explain that my first language is English, I'm met by disapproving looks from the white folk. But how come your first language is English and you're African? Surely your first language should be something a little bit more tribal sounding. And so by the time I start explaining to them that I come from Cameroon, and in Cameroon we have 260 tribal languages, but we have 2 national languages, which is English and French. Therefore, my first language is English. Then they go, oh, okay, now we understand. I also remember when I was in high school, during our history lessons, whenever we're talking about other African countries, maybe we're talking about the Nigerian Biafra War, or we're talking about the Rwandan genocide, the teacher will stop, pause, and everyone will look at me, and the teacher will signal. I'm sure Joanne has something more to say about the Rwandan genocide because she's from Africa. And I think to myself, we are in Africa. So I don't know if that was a misconception or misplaced identity. I'm not sure. So these are the different kinds of perceptions that I faced as an immigrant in South Africa. In addition to this, once in a while when there was news of outbreak or violence against foreign nationals, I often felt a bit uneasy, unsafe, wondering if I'm accepted in the environment I find myself in. And I believe that what we can actually do to stop these occurrences is to replace the spirit of division with the spirit of Ubuntu. And Ubuntu basically means I am because you are. This is an ancient African concept that puts humanity at the forefront of our being. So you discard differences based on nationality, differences based on religion, culture, and every other difference you can think about. So Ubuntu breaks the societal barriers and seeks to unite us instead of trying to separate us because of perceptions. So I believe that social cohesion can only truly exist when we start seeing each other as a reason for being. Now, it seems that Mother Nature is actually much better at interactions than we are. And if I remember my biology correctly, an ecosystem is a community of organisms that interact with each other in an environment. And in an ecosystem, you have thousands of different organisms. Some of them migrate there from someplace else, while other organisms are there permanently. And there's competition for food, there's competition for water, there's competition for clothes. But in an ecosystem, each organism needs the other one to survive. And so let's look at an example. Let's imagine a herd of cows. Usually, wherever you find cows, you will find these birds called cattle egrets. And what these birds do is they eat the insects from the cows. And it's beneficial to the cows because they don't have to deal with these insects anymore. And it's beneficial to the birds because they have food. And so this kind of relationship is called a symbiotic relationship. And a symbiotic relationship or symbiosis is basically an interaction between 2 organisms that is beneficial to them both. So this is how Ubuntu is actually supposed to work practically and not just in understanding. When an immigrant comes into a different country, instead of forming opinions about them that might not be true, rather try to form interactions with them that is beneficial to society as a whole. And so I would like to share with you 4 things that have helped me as an immigrant in South Africa to form better relationships on a day-to-day basis. Number 1, ask questions. Ask questions. If you're unsure about anything, ask questions. Rather than jumping to conclusions about something that might not be true, rather ask the person, is this really how it is? Number 2, Don't be offended if someone has a misconception about you, because all they know is all they've been exposed to. So rather use the opportunity to try and educate them to correct their faulty thinking. Number 3, don't pass judgment against people who have a different perception from you, or people of a different religion, a different race, a different culture, because again, all they know is all they've been exposed to. And finally, you need to know who you are. And knowing who you are is defined by so many different things. But for me, I know who I am based on my faith. I'm a child of God. And secondly, my foundation is my family. Therefore, because I know these two things, nothing anyone tells me can ever make me feel offended because I know who I am. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, social cohesion is possible when we actually start practicing Ubuntu and not just thinking about it in our understanding. It is possible when we start forming the right relationships with each other that is beneficial. And it is possible when we stop labeling with each other with perceptions that are not necessarily true. Thank you.